Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for UFC 323, we have 14 fights all headlined by not only Merab and Jan too, but also Pantoja and Van, 2 title fights at the top. A lot of very, very good names. And not only the last pay-per-view of the year, but maybe of all time with Paramount coming out. So a lot of fun things to talk about here. We do have ourselves, 28 fighters to go over, a fun drafting slate and a very, very interesting one. And the last pay-per-view and last fight card aside from next week in a long time. So I am looking forward to this one. There should be a lot of great fights. Make sure you're also checking out CoolBet, where I'll be dropping my best bets video and a ton of boosts over there. But also establish a run for my full premium DraftKings content. I do a lot of work over there with Brett, podcast, rankings, everything else like that. So be sure to check that all out. All that will be featured in this video here as well. I'm not going to waste any more time. Hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, show some love, and let's do this. Get the fight night started with the 13-3 Muhammad Naimov versus the 17-1 Myro Santos. 2 fighters that I've been a little critical of in the past, but one that I do think makes for a fun matchup. Muhammad Naimov has cheated his way to the top. When you bet on someone, he's trying his all. You got to give that to him. But someone who, I still discredit some of his wins a little bit. Someone who, is doing enough what he has to because he has that well-rounded skill set. Solid power, solid movement winning on the feet there as well, and decent ability to mix in takedowns in a 1.69 takedown in 15 minutes. But, at the grand scheme of things, I still think he can be controlled. He doesn't have enough output to win minutes a lot of the time there as well. I think there are flaws in this guy's game. And Santos is someone who, although I didn't like him, I think Francis Marshall beat him, and I bet on Marshall to beat him. This is still someone with a very, very good striking ability. He can go out there. He can land very good shots from range. He can land damage, build as the fight goes on, and win optics that way too. So, of course, there's a chance for Naimov to go out there, land takedowns, maybe stall his way over to a victory. But I do think Santos is the side I'm going to have to go with because I think he's going to land more damage, and he's going to win the optics with more volume on the feet and the more accurate striking. Now, would I play Marion Santos at his price? Sitting over here, minus 295, minus 65, minus 250, depending on the book, still a very large favorite? No, because Naimov has paths to win it, whether it be with the grappling, whether it be with him landing big shots of his own right. This is not a spot I want to get too invested in from a betting perspective. Even on DraftKings, Marion Santos at 9.1K is not someone I'm getting to. 3 wins, 56, 57, 93. No wrestling upside. I don't think he wins by knockout here. It's going to be a low-pace decision in which he can also be controlled there as well. I do not like Marion Santos. Even though I'm picking to win, I much prefer the underdog here at Muhammad Naimov. Again, not the best scores, 58, 72, 97, 92, but a cheap fighter with grappling path to victory, I think, who wins more than the line entails, on a pretty top-heavy slate. I will certainly mix him in some Naimov. So I did pick Santos to win. I do think he wins it with his striking optics and with his range. However, I do think it's dogger pass from a DraftKings perspective. And then we have the 8-0-1 Mansour Abdul-Malik versus the 12-5 Antonio Trocoli. This is a huge favorite, and not a fight that I have to spend too much time on because I do think this is Mansour Abdul-Malik's fight to lose. He is a very, very physical fighter with great power, great takedowns, with a very good collegiate wrestling background behind there as well, but just this devastating ground and pound that really likes to go out there and hurt people. His biggest flaw has probably been this hesitancy. He hasn't always pushed urgency, but when he does, this dude is terrifying and a very, very dangerous fighter. Trocoli is someone who, 1.29 strikes in per minute, has not had the most aggression, doesn't know if his heart's in it too much either, and someone who's losing to these lesser fighters. Trocoli hasn't really found his footing inside the UFC, so this is a spot that I do think Mansour Abdul-Malik should be able to land damage. If you're being finished by Gore or Magomedov in those spots there, I do think Mansour Abdul-Malik can go out there, not only land powerful shots in the feet with how aggressive and how hard he hits, but take you down and implement some nasty ground and pound, because that's what Mansour Abdul-Malik does best. It's what he saw in the regional scenes, what I expect to see here. No hot take from me. I'm picking Mansour Abdul-Malik. I think he's minus 1,000, minus 1,200 for a reason, and I do think he gets a finish here. Minus 900, not much meat left on the bone. And more so the question is, can you afford him on DraftKings? Because at 9.8K, sure, he has a path. His hesitancy can hold him back. That's why he's scored 88 in that one, 95 in the Contender Series. But we know he has that 115-point upside like he showed against Dusko, and there's some questions there. The only issue with him is he's not only 9.8K, but this is a slate with Merab Dvalishvili, one of the, if not the best DraftKings score of all time, 219, 120, 137, but also Pantoja. Someone who's also gone out there, scored 143 3 times in a row. Like, 2 massive scores around him that he's just going to be a contrarian option up top. So if you can afford him, you're playing Sergeant Scrub, that's fine. He's a decent pivot if you're also playing, the Vans of the world and the Jans of the world. But I cannot prioritize him over the people around him, and his salary might be too expensive for the optimal. However, I do think he wins this at a high clip. Then we have the 6-0 Ivo Baraniewski versus the 14-3 Ivo Aslan. I think this is a fun fight, and my first instinct was this is a huge market overcorrection for someone like Baraniewski, who was a very big underdog in the Contender Series, got an early knockout, and is now a large favorite over a UFC vet. I do think when it comes to the striking, Ivo Aslan's probably the better striker of the two, and that's what he wants to do. He has solid leg kicks. He is a very physically imposing fighter, and a lot of these finishes, if not all of them, are coming early and with power. You look at someone like Baraniewski, and sure, he got an early knockout last time. That's kind of what he was able to do to win the fight. It took 20 seconds to knock the guy out. But we've seen the regional scene, that's not all he has. He has judo throws. He has the ability to take you to the ground and land ground and pound. And down there, Ibo Aslan's kind of a fish out of the water. And we saw him submitted by Kutalaba. I think Baraniewski has more damage down there. So although I think if this fight is on the feet, we get a very good line on a solid underdog Ibo Aslan, because I do think he hits harder and it's a big overcorrection to the last line. However, I do think Baraniewski has more ways of doing it, especially with the judo, get this fight down to the ground. Ibo Aslan really struggles on the ground, and I think Baraniewski can have the advantage there. So line might be wide for my liking, especially considering I still have the things to learn about Baraniewski, but I do think he has more paths to get this one done, and I'll pick him to win. On DraftKings, I was hoping for a solid inside the distance line, now minus 550. Yeah, that's great. I still think the more the line goes up, maybe Ibo Aslan has some KO upside, but as it stands, not much value on this line here. On DraftKings, I do have some interest towards it, because not only is Baraniewski, powerful, but his path to victory involves, potential takedowns, ground dominations. We saw Kutalaba score very good against Aslan there, putting up 108 against him. He could be a solid mid-range contrarian play there as well. However, also when it comes down to those, mid-range underdogs, think about 7.4K for Aslan. I do think he has knockout power in his own right. This is a fight I don't mind to target, especially considering the high upside. But Baraniewski might be sneaky at that price range. Despite me thinking maybe the line's a bit wide, I did pick Baraniewski to win, and solid fight to target on DraftKings. Then we have the 24-3 Edson Barboza, the 14-9 Jalen Turner. So happy to see Jalen Turner back. One of my favorite fighters. Able to meet him in Salt Lake City a few years ago, and he was the nicest fighter I met there. I do think this guy's more in the tank. He is a very, very big and dangerous fighter for the division who can hit hard on the feet, but also grapple pretty well. But he is coming off a pretty rough patch, 1-4 in his last 5, not necessarily looking the best, but he does get an older fighter here in Edson Barboza, who also has not been looking the best. I picked him to be close. Didn't really go his way there as well, because he is someone who can hit hard. He is a very good striker with great leg kicks and great ability to work, but he's getting up there in age. He cannot take damage as much, and he can be taken down. So in this matchup here, along with a couple other fights to talk about later, it just depends where Jalen Turner's mindset is at. When it comes to pure skill, I think at this point in time, he's got more weapons, more paths. The ground game's there. I think he hits hard enough to take advantage of the chin of Barboza, who's also been dropped there as well. I think Jalen Turner's size, aggression, and versatility can get him this win at a very, very high clip. But if he's not training, if he's still thinking about retirement, this could definitely be a tough matchup to win. So I'm picking Jalen Turner. I hope he wins. I love the guy. But Edson Barboza is no slouch. And if Jalen Turner's not preparing, if he's not in the right mindset for it, Barboza can not only leg kick him to victory, but outstrike him here too. So pick Jalen Turner. Again, hard to put too much confidence into it. Again, another fight that's just juiced towards the under, so hard to get into me there. Another fight on DraftKings too that I do have some interest towards. Now, Turner, again, is in that price range with Dvalishvili and Pantoja. Historically, he has been a pretty good fighter. 114 against Green, 117, 106, 112, 125, 107, 129, 131. This guy's scoring very, very well. Again, he is just going to be a contrarian pivot play to the people like Merab and Pantoja, who are going to be popping this range. I certainly love Jalen Turner a lot more than Payne Talbot, a lot more than Myron Santos. But again, another guy who's going to be more of a contrarian play up top if you are choosing a Jan or a Van in this spot here. Picking Jalen Turner should be a fun fight. Happy to see him back. And then with the 19-9-1 Marvin Vettori versus the 14-2 Bruno Ferreira, this fight's a tough one to break down because it is, the guy Marvin Vettori who's never been knocked out but who has not looked good versus this powerful guy who only wins by knockout in Bruno Ferreira. So, but a pretty simple fight for me to break down in terms of, this is going to be a striking affair. Marvin Vettori is the much better minute winner. Bruno Ferreira cannot win minutes, right? He's not a very good distance striker. He just hits hard and looks for that one shot. He does have that one shot. He can knock you out. But I do think Marvin Vettori is going to be the better minute winner from distance, or at least that's what I would probably expect in the past. However, considering the poor form we've seen from Vettori, the way he looked against Allen and Dalitse, it was really tough to watch. I do think Bruno Ferreira's moments and big shots on the feet, the opportunity to land the stunning shot, have the crowd behind him there as well, I think can definitely help him in the judges' scorecards, and I do think he has more finish equity here too. So the cardio, level of experience, and volume worries me for Ferreira. I'm actually going to pick him. I think he's not a guy who I've backed on in the past, but I have not liked what I've seen from Vettori. And I do think Ferreira can not only hit hard enough to, win optics, but also potentially crack the chin that is just definitely there to be hit. So I'm picking Ferreira at an underdog price tag. I just do not have much confidence at Vettori at this point in his career. Not a big underdog. He's minus 103, minus 105. That's not the best. But DraftKings is another tough one to figure out. It's in the mid-range. Vettori has not been the best DraftKings scorer in the past. 72 in a win. These are all 5-rounders. 65 in a 3-rounder there. 81. I don't really love that. Ferreira is scoring great. His box scores are there considering the knockouts, 111, 117, 109, 107. I just worry this could get extended. And even in fights where we see Vettori lose because he's looking, not as good, give up 94 in fights that there was wrestling and stuff like that there as well. Give up 65 to Whitaker. This fight, if it gets extended to which it's expected to, one that just could not maybe score as well on DraftKings. So I prefer a lot of other fights in this range. I did pick the dog here in Ferreira, but not my favorite fight as a whole. And then we have the 11-1-1 Nazim Sadykhov versus 17-4 Perez Ziam, two guys who I also have been pretty critical on. Nazim Sadykhov has shown he is an absolute dog. His motor, his ability to go out there and, rally through adversity and fight at all levels on the ground, on the feet. This guy's a dog. It's fun to cheer for. It's fun to watch him fight. He's had some great performances. Perez Ziam has had some snoozer performances. He's fought a little slower, but he has shown great skill, solid size, very good ability to win minutes, very good ability to control range and do well there. We did see that one fight of his against McKinney where he let someone come in close to him. He got submitted early. Maybe that's a pass for James Sadykhov. But I'm going to tell you right here, right off the rip, I'm picking Perez Ziam, and I will have a bet on him. I'm surprised the line is the way he is, and I do think he has more chance to win the line of tails. This guy's good. Again, I've been hypercritical on him because people can control him and take him down. I thought Mike Davis could do that. But I think this is probably a good matchup for him to win minutes. He's got very good ability to control range from distance. And we look at the fights that Sadykhov has had, sure, the Mata one was a great rally. He got hurt by Mata there. Could have been finished by a different judge. Bumping fight's a decent one there as well, but, dropped in a war to Borshev there as well. McKinney is Terrence McKinney. He was losing that fight to Evan Elder before the cut. I think this is a step up in competition. Perez Ziam, I think, is going to be the better minute winner of the two, be able to control range, and I think is able to win this fight at a pretty high clip. So give me Perez Ziam to dictate where this fight takes place, probably have more finishing instinct, and use his level of competition and distance management to win this fight. And at the way the line is right now, we have minus 133, minus 128. I will be betting that. I do like me for some Perez Ziam, and this is a spot where I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. Now, from DraftKings, Perez Ziam has not been the best scorer. Let's be honest, right? He scored pretty good his last couple, 114.92, but historically, 69, 66, 67 against Malarkey, 46 in a decision against Luigi Benjamini, in which I did bet Benjamini. I'll be honest. Not the best. It's actually been Sadykhov that has scored better. 122.96, all this kind of stuff. So I think that if Sadykhov does win as underdog, great upside. The box scores show it. But another fight where if Perez Ziam gets the fight he wants, where he's controlling range, I prefer to take a shot on the, higher implied probability fights here to end. Again, not a must play in this range. We have 14 fights to talk about, but I do like Perez Ziam. I do think he wins this fight, and I will be betting it. Another fun but tricky fight here, the 14-2 Macy Barber, 19-5 Karine Silva. Again, another fight that's tough to call because Macy Barber, fainted in her last one, has definitely had some health issues coming in here. We do not know what version of her we are getting, but she is someone who has, fought the best, who's a very good minute winner, is a pretty good looking lady there as well, and someone who's pretty marketable. Considering how young she is here, I do want to see her back in the cage because she does have the skills, and she is someone who's pretty well-rounded. Karine Silva is probably more front-loaded than her, definitely more dangerous. She needs those moments. She needs to be able to win. I bet against her last time. I thought Barboza beat her. But, you win some, you lose some. She is still someone who is very, very dangerous. Very good ground game. Solid power there on the feet as well. She's not the best minute winner. So in a spot like this, I understand why Macy Barber is favored. However, I do think Karine Silva is going to be a dangerous fighter. And Macy Barber, a fighter who fights on very, very close margins. People who think she lost a lot of these fights. I do think the moments, the impact, and the health concerns of Macy Barber are going to lead Karine Silva towards a victory here. I'm actually going to pick Karine Silva to win because of the odds. Now, would my opinion change if the odds were a bit different? Maybe. I do think Macy Barber is the better minute winner here, but I think more things are siding in Karine Silva's way. The activity, the grappling, the ability to finish fights here as well. And considering the state we've seen Macy Barber in, if there's some health issue, if her head's not in it, I do think Karine Silva is a very, very dangerous fighter. So I'm going to take the dog here. What's a decent-sized dog? Plus 154, plus 165 in some different areas there as well. I'm going to pick Karine Silva here as well. On DraftKings, she becomes a play I want to target because at 7.5K, although she's had some snoozers, 67 against Danny Barboza, 85 against Lipsky. When she's getting finishes, when she's being dangerous, she has a pretty solid ceiling, but also a decent floor at 38 on what is a pretty volatile slate. So I do not mind Karine Silva. Maybe not the most high upside option when you're looking at McKinney, Aslan, Torres around her, but someone who I will mix in, especially in cash. Barber, I do think you can also mix in, but is she going to go out there and outscore, Baraniewski in a grappling-based decision, Chris Duncan against, it's just not going to work out too well. So give me the dog here in Karine Silva, and what is a pretty fun fight, and I do hope Macy Barber comes in healthy. And then the aforementioned 17-7 Terrence McKinney versus the 14-2 Chris Duncan, probably my favorite fight of the card. This one's going to be an absolute, fire fest. And I have been super critical of Chris Duncan. Again, he has proved me wrong time and time again. He's definitely making improvements at American Top Team. He does hit hard. His resiliency is through the roof. And although I thought he had chin problems, he's definitely shown improvements there as well. Even in mixing of takedowns, 3.17 takedowns, 50 minutes. The guy's definitely, improving in my opinion. And although I still have my questions about him, he's got some good wins. Terrence McKinney, we know exactly what he is. And if fights were 5 minutes long, he could be champion. He is super, super dangerous early on. Super high twitch muscle. He's able to go out there, land quickly, land hard, but also grapple pretty well. Take the back, threaten submissions. He's very, very good, but his cardio is definitely in question. He falls off a cliff early, and this fight gets around 2. He's probably losing. So to me, this fight's going to be a fun, high-paced one. We've seen Chris Duncan take it down. He's to sub there before. We've seen him dropped. So Terrence McKinney has his path in the first 5 minutes. But Chris Duncan's resiliency has been insane. And Terrence McKinney has definitely shown he can fall off a cliff late. I probably think it's McKinney early, Duncan late. Either way, this is a fight that is ending early, in my opinion. And one that I think is super important for DraftKings. When it comes to betting, I think it's probably right. Chris Duncan minus 150. Sure, I think I have to favor him, fighting the better level of competition and having more proven cardio down the stretch. But on DraftKings, this is probably going to be one of the most popular fights that is not, one of the main 2. You look at Duncan, 8.6K. He scored pretty good. 118 in a finish, 94, 90, 106. Some performances when they're getting later on scoring as well. This is a fight that is going to end early. It's Terrence McKinney. And when you look at the way he's fighting, he's either scoring 122, 121, or he's giving up 127, 82, 101. There's a 100-point, 120-point score in a lot of these fights, and I don't think this was any different. So it's a fight I want to target. I picked, Chris Duncan, even though I've picked against him a lot in the past. I did pick Chris Duncan. Either way, I want this fight on DraftKings. It should be a good one for as long as it lasts. And then another fantastic one, the 23-2-1 Grant Dawson versus the 16-3 Manuel Torres. Loco Torres has been kind of like Terrence McKinney. He is super, super aggressive. Average fight time, 2.3 minutes up there. This guy's insane. He wants to go out there and take your head off. He has a ton of power, but still the questions still have remained. How does he grapple? How does he do it on the stretch? He also has that kind of Terrence McKinney, like this guy can fade as the fight goes on. And he's facing someone with kind of the opposite mentality. Grant Dawson, average fight time is 11.21, and it's kind of skewed by some fights there as well. He wants to take you down and just dominate the ground. Rinse, repeat takedowns, a ton of control time. This guy can drag you out and beat you on the mat. And considering the holes we've seen from Manuel Torres, the fact that he was submitted on the regional scene, controlled there as well. We haven't seen him after round 2. It seems like a pretty binary fight. Grant Dawson was knocked out early by Bobby Green. That's what Torres does. If Torres knocks him out early, sure, that's it. But aside from that, Grant Dawson is going to take over, look to maul him on the mat. So Manuel Torres has his probably 2-3 minute window to land that big shot. If not, Grant Dawson is just going to bully him down there, averaging 3.87 takedowns, 15 minutes. I have to go with Grant Dawson. I do think he does take him down and really dominate him on the mat. Now, from a betting perspective, another fight that I do expect to finish, I actually think that Grant Dawson probably going to finish later, but minus 500 is just crazy here as well. So another spot where I do expect violence, and that translates well to DraftKings. You look at the two of them, Grant Dawson, 8.9K, probably my favorite option below the 9Ks, which is kind of a cheap shot because he's 8.9, but 130, 114, 108, 103, 123. These takedown numbers are insane. Control time, landing ground and pound. I don't know where those 195 shots came from, but if you counted for them, so be it. He is scoring very, very well. So again, it is tough to get off of Merab and Pantoja, but those lineups where you're liking Joshua Van, Merab, Dawson, Van, good ways to go. He does rate out to be a very, very good scorer, averages pretty well up top. Someone I'm looking to target. However, Manuel Torres' path to victory, like I said, is a knockout in the first 2-3 minutes. And for that reason, 110, 103, 105, 114, 111, I want this guy as well as a punt play. Both him and McKinney are the punt plays down low. If he wins, I think he's on the optimal lineup with no questions asked. So I picked Grant Dawson, but a fight that I do want from both sides on DraftKings. And then on to the main card, we have the 29-11-1 Jan Blachowicz versus the 18-3 Bogdan Guskov. I've been hypercritical of Guskov in the past, again, and I probably will be here too. He is someone who is kind of like Bruno Ferreira in the way that, he hits very, very hard. He can take your head off, super powerful, but still, I have questions about his ground games, about his minute-winning ability, about his wins he's gotten here as well. I just think he has questions to be answered. And when you're going up against someone like Jan Blachowicz, someone who's, fighting really close with Carlos Ulber, Alex Pereira, this is a very, very good fighter. And aside from the fact that he's going to be 43 years old soon, Jan Blachowicz is better everywhere. I think he can compete in the power, but I think he's got better minute-winning ability. I think he'd take him down, beat him there too. Better cardio, better level of experience, better minute-winning ability. And I think he's going to win. Sure, we're going to knock out a 43-year-old. If Jan Blachowicz is washed, that's fine. I haven't seen that. He fought close and could have beaten Ulber. He could have beaten Pereira. And, when Guskov's going out there and fighting, losing round 1 to Span, getting submitted by Ozdemir. Sure, you're beating people with questionable chins and Pau, Galakane, and Krylov, but this can be a big step up. And I'm going to pick the old man here, Jan Blachowicz, the Polish power, to be the better minute winner and win this matchup here. Can even mix in wrestling, but I just think he wins. The line hasn't favored. People don't really want to trust this, 43-year-old, but a guy I do like to win here when it comes to DraftKings. Another tough one because 8.4K on Blachowicz isn't always scoring the best in these decisions, in knockout, sure, but decisions 88. Even his later finishes 91 against Krylov. Not much wrestling upside. Sure, you would have scored 97 against Alex Pereira in a close fight there if you want to go that route. So maybe there's an opportunity. But again, you're in a range with Chris Duncan, Baraniewski, Ziam, these other big fighters. It's tough to get to him. I understand why you want to play him, and maybe Guskov's a level above. Blachowicz could be an optimal lineup, but I do think he's a secondary pivot play for me. If Guskov does win, I do think it's by knockout because of the old man shin, and that score has looked pretty good. So, you know what? Maybe this fight will be more inclined to play than I sound right now, but I just want to pay on Blachowicz. I do think the old man's got it in him, and I do think he wins this fight. Speaking of older, aging fighters here, we have Henry Cejudo, the former double champ, facing this rising prospect, the 10-1 Peyton Talbott. Very fun fight, very interesting matchmaking because Peyton Talbott's this guy on the rise. He goes minus 1,000 to beat Raoni Barcelos, and he gets just dominated on the mat, just beaten up down there. Comes back, he's shown improvements. How does that fare against a former, Olympic gold medalist, a former champion who utilized that wrestling? Henry Cejudo has a path to definitely get some takedowns, to definitely win this fight, and I think he's a very light underdog to do so. But this is also someone who's contemplating retirement, who has retired and come back, who's going to be at a 6-inch reach disadvantage and just going to be at a big striking and optics disadvantage for Peyton Talbott. Now, I will skip to this and say that I don't know how much I agree with minus 274, minus 75 on someone like Peyton Talbott, but I did slightly pick him to win. I do think he is someone who not only has that height and size, but someone who's continually improving, right? We saw against Lima, he defended the takedowns. I bet him against Lima. I made a decent amount of money there doing so. I know this is a different task for someone like Henry Cejudo, but he still is someone who, is struggling to get control. I don't know if he can control and threaten submission the same way that Raoni Barcelos can. So I think Talbot can get back up. And on the feet, Talbot's going to land more damage, win under judges' scorecards by that way there as well. I do think it's a close one where if Talbot doesn't get him out of there, he could lose round one. Henry Cejudo could maybe win some optics due to his control and his threatening takedowns. But gun to my head, if you ask me a winner, it's this up-and-coming striker who lands better optics, who'd be a lot bigger in this fight, against this older retiring fighter who hasn't been able to establish control recently. Again, betting, not really want to get too involved on this. I think the line is wide. Maybe Henry Cejudo plus 3.5, point spread could help us out there as well. Minus 25. Again, some different ways to look at it. I do think Cejudo could have some success. And another fight on DraftKings that I do want some part in, not because of Peyton Talbot side. I don't think he's got grappling equity. I don't want him. I'd much rather play a lot of other people around him. But it's Henry Cejudo. Just like Naimov, I think he wins more than the line entails. And if that's the case, he's put up really good scores. And it's going to be a wrestling-based decision win, in my opinion, too. So another underdog that's kind of a punt play down low. Probably one of my favorite punt plays down low. Not the same ceiling as a Torres or McKinney, but someone who I think wins more than the line entails. And when he does, scores pretty good in the meantime. So picking Talbot, probably more ownership of Cejudo, though. A pretty fun fight. And then with the 23-8-2 Brandon Moreno versus the 17-1 Tatsuro Taira, another tough one to call. Two guys are going different directions kind of here as well. But, one that I do have some interest in, I don't want to talk bad about it because this is also a great fight, but the two fights after this I have so much more, interest in. This one here, I do think Tatsuro Taira has all the skills to make it, really far. His striking is definitely improved, but it's that back take and that submission grappling, the wrestling coming along there as well. He's a young kid there as well, still improving. So I do think Tatsuro Taira has the goods. I think this is a real good test for him. Brandon Moreno is going to have more volume. He's going to has fought the best of the best and has shown the ability to compete wherever the fight goes. We have seen Taira kind of struggle when the fight is brought to him, right? When Royval was able to beat him, the only person able to, he's able to go out there and, be raw dog Royval and threaten stuff there as well. Moreno can do the same. I think Moreno can not only, stay safe. If you're staying safe against Pantoja and other people, you can stay safe against Taira, but land more optics on the feet, be the better minute winner, and maybe even make some takedowns of his own when we saw Taira stuck in his back there as well. So I think Moreno is someone who I think is, maybe not as good technically as Taira, but has the style to win this fight. If he's going forward, Taira doesn't look as comfortable. And I do think Moreno, although being a bit older and, again, not really knowing where his head is at, has fought good enough opponents to be able to win this fight here. And I do think he's got the minute-winning ability to beat Taira here in what I think is a pretty close fight. Again, close line. We'll take another underdog here, plus 110 on DraftKings 2. I do think the pace of Moreno makes him a viable play. 7.7K, Ravis and McKinney. These are 5-rounders, so he's actually scoring even less. But, 67, 66 aren't great. So maybe I shouldn't be as excited about this one as I thought I was. But I do think there's, pacing. I think the way he's winning this fight is going to come with pressure and potentially takedowns there as well. So I don't mind him. Taira is not a really guy I'm getting to. I prefer to play the Duncan, Baraniewski, other people in this range. So not my favorite fight on the card. I am going to pick a vet lesson from Moreno here due to his pace, his forward pressure, and his volume, but should be another fun fight. All right, here are the ones I want to talk about. This may be one of my favorite fights ever. I'm really looking forward to this fight. 30-5, Alexander Pantoja. 15-2, Joshua Van. Now, Joshua Van's only 14 days older than me, which makes you feel kind of, what am I doing with my life? Just breaking these guys down with nobody watching. But still, I do think it's a fun fight to think about because there are so many different dynamics about this one. Alexander Pantoja, I have backed a long, long time. I backed him to beat, Moreno. I backed him his whole ride at the top here, and I like the guy. His tenacity, his durability, his scrambling ability, and his ability to take the back. One of the best back takers we've ever seen. That submission game truly is elite. On the feet, too. His ability to throw caution to the wind, walk people down, and land shots there as well. I think his striking is very underrated there as well. But Joshua Van has this whole different electricity about him, right? This young guy coming up, his volume, his pace, his pressure, his ability to break people down the stretch, and the boxing is what he does it with. It's at a very, very high level. He averages 8.86 strikes landed per minute. The pace is incredible. The card is incredible. And I'm excited to see him in a 5-round fight if it makes it there. The questions we have about Van is we still have not seen his ground game tested. This may be a little bit too much too soon for this 24-year-old. And he's going up against one of the best back takers and scramblers we have seen. Joshua Van does have an 81% takedown defense, but no one's really shot on him and taken the back. No one's really made him scramble. So this is going to be a really tall task. Now, I'm going to pick Pantoja. I've always really picked Pantoja in these fights. I think he has more ways of getting it done. But I do think Joshua Van can take over as the fight goes on. Pantoja has slowed down in the past, but no one's really pushed the pressure on him. And Joshua Van is someone who, I think fights pretty smart in the way he'll attack the legs. He'll disengage when he has to. I don't mind it. So I do think this fight could be close. I am going to pick Alexander Pantoja. But what really interests me in this fight is the fight doesn't go line. Minus 150 right now. I'll have to jump on that. Sports betting is legal in Missouri, so shout out. But I do think it's going to be either Pantoja early. Maybe the grappling's too much. He shoots early, gets the back, submits him. That could be it. All right. Van has really been tested on the ground. But the longer this fight goes, Van looks to put the finishing touches on. He looks to knock you out, to get you out of there. And Pantoja has slowed, has curled up a little bit before. So maybe the finish is there. Maybe not only the under, but what do we got here? Some late props on someone like Van, maybe a plus 3,300 on Van round 5, plus 25, we can have some fun with that. But I did pick Pantoja to win. I do think this is also an extremely pivotal fight on DraftKings because Pantoja has been a pretty good scorer. Van is going to force exchanges. He's going to force scrambles. He's going to work back up to his feet. He has been a very, very good scorer in the past. Even at that, though, I love Pantoja. I do think he can pivot off to Dawson and other stuff there as well. But it's Van. If Van is winning, it is with his volume. It's with his ability to break Pantoja as the fight goes on. And this guy's a guy who's scoring 123, 132 in 3-round fights. The volume, the pace is like something we've never seen before. So I really do like this fight as a whole. I will probably have a lot of Van on DraftKings there as well because he fits and they build well. But I'm thinking Pantoja. I like his grappling game. I think it might be too much too soon for Van. But definitely someone who I think is a future title holder. The question just is it now? And I think Pantoja is a level above. So Pantoja, phenomenal fight. And then we have the 21-4 Merab Dvalishvili versus the 19-5 Petr Yan. The second time they fought, Petr Yan, I think, still has PTSD from that one there too. Merab attempted the most takedowns in UFC history, and that was a really interesting performance because he was a large underdog last time. Now a much larger favorite here too, and the run he's been on has just been insane. Averages 6.4 takedowns in 15 minutes, the pace, the aggression. Merab is just on a tier of his own, and he is going to break you down the stretch. I think the only way someone's going to beat Merab is catching him in something. Ricky Small caught him in a guillotine. He was almost knocked out by Marlon Moraes. So I do think that there are paths to beating him, but, Merab's just going to be a legit – sorry. They have the exact same average fight time. It's pretty impressive. This is a guy who's just going to go forward, be an absolute marauder, never going to slow down. The card is to the roof. So I do think Merab is someone who you can't really, beat in a decision a lot of the time, and Petr Yan wants to fight to a decision. Like, he's not a fight finisher. He is usually a slower starter there as well. So I have to pick Merab. I do think the line is wide considering the fact that Yan is the better striker of the two. And if he can defend a takedown, he can maybe hurt him, maybe threaten something there too. But Merab is going to spam takedowns, take him down relentlessly. And, that wins optics. That'll tire you out. And I expect Petr Yan to tire before Merab. Considering the way the first one won, how dominant that was, I'm going to have to pick Merab here too. But again, how much am I getting towards a minus 430 price tag, minus 420? I don't know how much value there is left. So picking Merab, but more so it's going to come on DraftKings. Getting those popular fighter on the slate, the greatest DraftKings score of all time. Merab, 219 last time is just incredible. And he's always breaking these numbers too. Last time I fought Petr Yan, 167 points. I don't even know what more I need to say. So I'm getting to Merab in a lot of my lineups. The only ones I won't, I don't even know if they'll have Yan. Maybe they'll have Yan in it because I think he does win more than line of tails. It's just DraftKings Merab is untouchable. So phenomenal fight. Happy to see it a second time. I just don't know how much different it goes. Give me Merab to get this one done. But that is going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm quickly running through my quick picks. We're taking Merab Dvalishvili, Alexander Pantoja, Brandon Moreno, Peyton Talbott, Jan Blachowicz, Grant Dawson, Chris Duncan, Karine Silva, Ziam, Bruno Ferreira, Jalen Turner, Iwo Baraniewski, Abdul-Malik, and Myro Santos. Now, this DraftKings slate is really, really fun, but also tough because we do have Dvalishvili and Pantoja up top. Two are very good, powerful options. So let's go a little bit over here. If you take both of them, Merab, Pantoja, you're left with an average of 7.9. You're going to need these underdogs you can trust. You can take the punt play on someone like a Terrence McKinney, like a Manuel Torres, like Ibo Aslan that we talked about. The safer option would be like Karine Silva, Brandon Moreno, who I do also think have those paths. Again, it's going to be tough to build in that mid range. You could also take a punt play down low, taking a shot on a Henry Cejudo. Maybe he wins by grappling. Or maybe Naimov. Maybe he also wins by grappling too. So there's these paths here as well. I do think the easiest way to do it would be, taking someone down low like a Naimov, Cejudo, and then playing your favorite side of the Dawson Torres fight and McKinney Duncan, whether it be one of the two. Maybe you're like, all right, Terrence McKinney grappling. I also think Grant Dawson has a path, and then you can fill it in the rest of the way. There's fun ways to build it that way too. But I do think the funnest way to build, which also he needs to win, so it's not as easy as it sounds, but going Merab and then going Joshua Van. I think that allows for a very good amount of options down up top. You can get to a Abdul-Malik, you can get to a Grant Dawson a lot easier. That allows you to play the Baraniewskis of the worlds, the Duncans, and still get a pretty plausible lineup here as well. So a lot of fun things. I do think up top, Merab, Pantoja stand out, but good pivots are going to be Abdul-Malik, Turner, Dawson, Baraniewski. In the mid-range, I love the Duncan McKinney fight. I love the Dawson Torres fight. And I do think I will get towards some Ziam Sadykhov, especially maybe some Barber Silva, I like Silva, but a pretty fun DraftKings slate. Any questions in the comment section down below. When it comes to betting, nothing locked in yet. One thing I'll tell you for sure is I will be betting for Ziam. I've said it the whole time throughout this video, and nothing will change here. Maybe some violence, other spots I like there as well, especially that co-main event, Violence and Pantoja Van. So check out not only me on Twitter at gamblesgordo, but also check out CoolBet, link in the description down below for a best bets video, and things will be boosting over there. However, that is going to do it from here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, check out a sideless run, check out CoolBet. I wish you all the best of luck in all your DraftKings and betting endeavors, guys. And let's make some money.